Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the feature news for today, 7th of February 2022. Today's feature news is on interlinkage of rivers in India. This has been in news because of the speech of the finance minister in the parliament, and because of this we will deal with the interlinking of rivers in our feature news today. We will understand what is the reason for interlinking of rivers, what has been the project ever since the last 50 years in the same front, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and how India is going to go about a project like this, what are the specific issues related to the same. All right. Good evening, Kriti, Hi Netra, Ashish, Hima, Bhavani, Pooja. Good evening to all of you. Let's start this conversation. Yes, absolutely, Pooja. They are both Ken Butwa are the tributaries for Yamuna. All right. So before we get into this article, let me show you the context of interlinkage of rivers. India is blessed with many rivers in our country, right? India is blessed with many rivers, and those rivers are largely divided in two sections. One are the Himalayan rivers, and the other are the southern rivers in our country, right? Himalayan rivers are perennially fed through the snow-capped mountains. The hotter the region, the higher the flow. So some of these rivers, according to human perception, have surplus water. Right? This is one thing that you could note. The other one is the other side of India's river is that of the rivers in the south, and many of them are fed through the monsoons. So the two wings of monsoon, one striking at the western coast and the other one going towards the east, right? They are the ones which are responsible for rainfall in the country. But what is important for us to understand is that this rainfall specifically happens in the Deccan area or around the monsoon, and this rainfall is providing 80% of the water available in our country, right? So this rainfall, 80% of it happens in the 4 months only, in the rainy 4 months only. This is one thing for you to note. Another thing for us to note is that India is a tropical country, and because of immense population, our rivers are devoid of fresh water at a lot of places. Also, because of disparity around the whole country, there are places which are water deficit and there are places which have high availability of water. Not only that, there are irrigated areas. Around 50% of the country is irrigated and 50% of the country is dependent on monsoon. And monsoon is erratic. Sometimes it happens well, sometimes there is El Nino, sometimes there is La Nina also, because of which there is La Nina usually tends to happen where there is more rainfall happening, but there are times when La Nina also results in less rainfall in the country. So because of these erraticity, right, because of the places, different places, presence of the landscape, mountains, the rainfall throughout the country is not adequate, even when it is 120 centimeter at an average per year in India. So this 120 mm, 120 centimeter is a very good proportion of rainfall, but a decent amount of it could get into the oceans, could get converted into groundwater, get seeped inside the ground level, and it is not available to people. So this is one of the contexts in which some of the rivers have been rated as surplus of water. Some regions have been called as surplus of water, and some places have been called as the ones which are deficit in water. And the idea has been to link the surplus regions to the deficit region as simple as possible, right? So when you look at the rainfall map of the country, right, there are two regions which are completely deficient of water in our country. One of them, right, is the western segment, and the other one is the hockey stick here you see in south of India. This is the rain shadow region of the Western Ghats. These are two regions where there is lot of problem of water. And if you carefully look into both the maps together, the last map of the river and the presence of this, you would also find that there are fewer rivers present in this particular area. And this is why there's a possibility that many of these river interlinkages will pass from these specific areas also. We will see that this has been planned actually. So if you look at the map, the landscape of the country is such that rivers flow in a particular manner, right, from those places which are higher in altitude to those places which are lower in altitude, right? So rivers from higher altitude, they flow to lower altitude. rivers from Western Ghats, higher altitude flowing towards lower altitude. But places in Maharashtra, places in Gujarat, places in Rajasthan, they are devoid of water. And rainfall is not able to cater to those places because the water laden or the moisture laden winds, they strike the Himalayas, and this is where they cause rainfall. So because of this, the interlinking of rivers is becoming more tangible, right? There's drought proneness around the country. More than 1/5 of the area, ideally spoken as 1/6, but actually it is more than 20% of area is very, very vulnerable to drought proneness. And because of this, because of vulnerable nature of the monsoon, because of extreme urbanization, pollution of whatever green belt that we have, or whatever potable water we have, deforestation, irrigation, and challenges associated, we need to ensure that there is availability of water through interlinking of the whole country. This is the map that I looked at from the website itself, and these places are those places which are highly water, where there's a lot of drought proneness. See, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, this is a very old map, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh. And you should also be able to link very clearly this map with another map which talks of the unrest in the states, demand for smaller states, right? So when Gujarat has a demand for Saurashtra as a new state, it is also because of drought proneness of this region. Similarly, when you look at demand of a new state, Telangana, it was also because of the L-shaped hockey stick that you saw in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh region. See, Telangana, new demand, and so is Vidarbha as well. So has Marathwada. Marathwada, Vidarbha are two segments of Maharashtra which have need of water, and water is not available. This becomes very easy for the politicians of those regions to lure the locals, to lure the people, the locals there, to vote for them, to vote for a change, to vote for a new state, right? So many of the state demands are also linked to availability or unavailability of water. Purvanchal, right? These are the places in Mirzapur, east of Uttar Pradesh. Look at Bundelkhand, Bagelkhand region. This is the same area which you're speaking of, Bundelkhand region, where Ken Betwa is going to get linked right now, right? So demand for a new state formation here. Similarly, Kaushal in Odisha. This is if you know the Koraput region, which is devoid of water. These are the places that we are talking of, right? So you can very well see that demand for water is also linked to political demands. And if water is made available, administrative convenience is made available, probably the states would not need further faction-wise administration. See, when you look at Maharashtra's map, there's enough water available on the west coast, but what about Madhya Maharashtra, Marathwada and Vidarbha? Similarly, in Gujarat as well, the whole area of Saurashtra does not get enough water. This is the reason that the demand for a new state, and so with Uttar Pradesh as well. See, Bundelkhand, Purvanchal, Awadh and Paschim Pradesh. So the government now, all right, a quick background to it. It was the river interlinking project is a very, very old project envisaged by Britishers. It is a 150-year-old project, but their agenda was not the development of the country. Their agenda was to ensure better trade in our own country, better trade, better connectivity for better trade for the Britishers. This is what they wanted. It was not actualized at that time, but in 1970s, this program was reinvigorated, rejuvenated by the irrigation minister. And then in 1980, around 1980, there was a plan built to be able to look at the feasibility of connecting India through rivers, through 33 of these rivers, right? Around 33 rivers. The idea was to connect these rivers through 30 interlinkages. 30 interlinkages. This was the plan, which would have thousands, in fact 3,000 plus dams and reservoirs. This is how the connectivity was envisaged. Not that all of them would be connected to each other, but yes, feasibility report would be studied, the detailed DPR, digital project report, would be studied, and through this detailing one would be able to understand what is a feasible project and what is not, right? So not only in 1980s, the plan was developed in 1980s, but it was not actualized. Later, Mr. Abdul Kalam, our ex-president, he again spoke of this river interlinking around the year 2000, and after that the Supreme Court also gave a nudge to the government to initiate this project. Now there are advantages, there are disadvantages. The advantages, for example, the first advantage that you can straight away look at is that because of interlinkages of river, there will be better irrigation. Absolutely correct. 50% L of India which is not irrigated will get irrigated through this. We will be able to capture monsoon water instead of letting it flow into rivers or oceans. We will capture it and we will ensure a better distribution. Not only that, we will also create dams through which hydroelectric power generation will be there. And yes, some of you mentioned that the hydroelectric potential of India is around 33 megawatt. I don't think it is true. I think it is around 150 megawatt, out of which around 50 megawatt has already been installed in India. Have a look at this, please. The HEP potential of our country is not less, it is quite high. Potential is very high. The actual present generation is although low, but it is not 33. It is more than 33 gigawatt. All of them gigawatt. So presence of the HEP. Not only that, there can be better tourism. What about inland water? Inland waterways, they can be also formulated better. Some of you have mentioned this. Very good that you have compared the waterways transportation cost with road transportation cost. Very good. So yes, this is another advantage of it. Along with that, look at the social sector advantage. Women, especially female children, are the ones who primarily go and fetch potable water or the water for homes, and they can have more time available to them in case water is available at their backyard. Imagine this social development. This is a very, very important point, especially this point at United Nations debates for developing countries. This is also an important pointer for the UPSC examination. A full-fledged question can be asked from this segment, right? Women and potable water availability, right? So this is the better part of it. And seeing this, the government launched this project, right? So plan has been to interlink these 33 rivers, now 33 to 37 rivers with 30 interlinkages, as I mentioned. This is the complete plan. I will show that to you, out of which 5 of them were individually spoken by the minister. Daman Ganga Pinjal, Par Tapi Narmada, Godavari Krishna, Krishna Penar, and Penar Kaveri, right? So 14 of these, out of 30 of these projects, 14 of them would be in North India and 16 of them would be in South of India. This is the first thing. The another thing linked here, see, this is where you see one, canal or project completely linking to western side of Himalayas from Yamuna. So one is from Yamuna to Rajasthan, and the second one is Rajasthan, project number 7, Rajasthan to Sabarmati. There will be complete linkage of the Marusthal area as well, right? And so at the Western Ghat region, if you see the interior of Western Ghats, the linkages between Godavari and Krishna are at multiple places, 3 places. Godavari is this, and we have Krishna like here, right here. So there are 3 places where Godavari and Krishna are getting connected. You will be able to see this in the gazette as well. And Krishna and Pennar as well, 2 levels of connection, right? So this is how the plan has been to ensure that this area, which has less availability of water, they get connected and water is flown from the surplus to the deficit areas. All right. 5 projects. Which are the 5 projects? So the first one is Daman Ganga and Pinjal. Daman Ganga and Pinjal. This is project number 27. If you are able to see here, this is the map of Western India, this side, and you can see very well the Daman Ganga to Pinjal. This small project is Daman Ganga to Pinjal. The second project is Par to Tapi to Narmada, a linkage from river Par to Tapi and Narmada. This is the second project. Similarly, we have 3 more projects. One of them is Ken Betwa, linkages, both of them tributaries of Yamuna. And then we have Krishna, Pennar and Pennar Kaveri. Krishna, Pennar and Pennar Kaveri. So these are the 5 projects which have been now given some funding. These projects are not cheap. These are very, very costly projects for the government, extremely costly. In fact, the estimate of this linkage in the year 2002 was estimated at 5,60,000 crore rupees. I am speaking of the year 2002. This would run at least 20 times this amount right now. At least. This is my speculation on this, because of the way economy has grown, the costs have grown. the prices have grown around the whole world, right? So the cost of the whole project would be extremely humongous if we try to link all of these rivers in the said capacity in according to this plan. But it's actually all of them is not carried out in the same way. A detailed DPR, the detailed project report, is prepared, right? Environmental impact assessment is done, social impact assessment is done. Its advantages in the coming times will be calculated, not only 1 or 2 or 5, 10 years, but centuries and centuries. Because once we make amends in the landscape, once we try to increase or decrease the height of a particular place, this will be there for thousands and thousands of years. So making a change like this must entail the impact it will have on ecology and surrounding, right? So the idea has been to create, just like we have energy grid, integrated energy grid for the whole country, the idea has been to have a South Asian water grid as well. We will also be partnering with countries like Bhutan, countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, to be able to create a water grid for all the regions, deficit and surplus. Beautiful term to use, water grid. However, the feasibility we will come into that as well, right? So this was earlier a part of National Perspective Plan. Perspective Plan was a dur ka plan, and now it has been called as National River Linking Project, NRLP, what we are studying right now, National River Linking Project, keyword that you will have to use. And through this, we will also be creating an authority called as National Interlinking of Water Authority, right? Earlier we had an agency, right, a National Water Agency, but that agency's power were limited. This agency which is getting created, National Interlinking of Water Authority, this will have more powers of clearance of environmental impact assessment, forest impact, animal impact, right, jungles. They will also have power to aggregate funds and finances. They will also be able to ensure that the project is carried out, cleared, its planning and assessment, all of it will be done by this particular body, given a lot of power, National Interlinking of Water Authority, right? So this is about this authority, and this is how the project will be executed, starting with Ken Betwa. But we have also studied, if you've seen in the last year, there have been a lot of news about the drowning of these forested areas in Ken Betwa region, right? So tracts, hundreds and thousands of acres of tracts will be subsumed under water, right? There will be villages which will be subsumed, and then people will have to relocate to different places. This has got its own impact, and most of the impact happens in areas dominated by tribals and scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, both of them. So this is a part of the government report only, that most of the impacted people of these kind of relocation projects are the marginalized sections. So first impact is this. If you further look at the impact, the kind of activity, if somebody was an agriculturalist, will they suddenly join the workforce and become a fisherman? No. It is not possible. If the children had landscape where they would find a rural area, can they settle immediately in an urban place? No. This leads to further marginalization of that community. This is the first impact of it. Look at the forest reserves there, Panna Tiger Reserve. What happens to that place? Tigers. Where will they get relocated? So there are side effects of environment here as well. If the trees are getting subsumed or submerged underwater, this will again be under CAMPA, right? There will be reforestation, but what about these trees? They will be dying. So when we look at what is surplus region of water, what is deficit region of water, we are looking at only human perspective. For environment perspective, none of this may be surplus or may be deficit. Environment is balancing itself. It is human need which is calling it surplus and deficit, which is going to create problem. This is one part of it. And a decent example of this is the Statue of Unity. When I look at the Statue of Unity located at Kevadia, it's a good site, it's a beautiful site, but there is a dam created right here, because of which the water flow here is restricted. Let me enlarge this image for you. This is the impact of creation of dams. And when we interlink rivers, the dams will be created. What about the river ecology of this particular place, right? What about the flora and fauna of this particular place? All deserted. algae formation here, if you can see this clearly in green light, this is what will happen to many other places as well. Another point that many of you, in fact, none of you have mentioned this point, is the idea of lift irrigation. World's largest lift irrigation projects are being created in India, in Telangana here. Kaveri, Krishna, what, where? Telangana. So this is energy intensive. And imagine for Ken Bitwa itself, if government has given 45,000 crore rupees, 45,000 crore rupees, not a couple of hundred crores, what happens to the larger projects? Huge amount will be given, and this will be an energy intensive process. Is this sustainable or not? If we have to provide so much of energy to be able to only lift water from, so that it gets carried from one place to another, you might have a question, why to lift water? Yes, it is because we might be transporting water from a lower altitude area to a higher altitude area. Remember, the Deccan area is having higher altitude, right? And if we are carrying water from a lower altitude plain area, at places we might have to lift water. This is something which is not sustainable. How to provide energy to these irrigation projects when people in the nearby villages might not have electricity, right? So deficit and surplus, this is very much questioned right here, right? Understanding this, understanding these components, now you will be able to better respect the article here. See, 45,000 crore rupees has been given to only Ken Betwa River interlinking project, right? So this is getting executed right now, and 4 other projects that I mentioned, 2 of them in the Western Ghat region and 2 of them near the Eastern Ghat region, right? So these 5 projects are being executed right now. We explained this. 37 rivers to be connected through 30 links, 14 above and 16 below, right? So this is an important aspect of it, right? It will provide a lot of hydropower generation, absolutely true. Oh, I think you mentioned 34,000 megawatt potential from these rivers. Yes, 34,000 megawatt potential along, and most of the potential will be in the Himalayan rivers only, because they have high presence of water, because this is perennial, and the southern rivers are not perennial. They will not have enormous water throughout the whole year. They will have more water during monsoon years, right? You understand this part? Do you? Please respond back. So this will be a solution for water deficit areas. The points, the good points about it: irrigation benefits, economic benefits, so lesser need for crop insurance, more crop productivity, right? Inland waterway management. Thank you for mentioning these points in the answers here. Effective utilization of monsoon water. Okay, very good. And for that, the special purpose vehicle, NIRA, right, National Interlinking of River Authority, has been created. So these are the benefits of it. What are the challenges? Concerns are surplus and deficit definition. This is according to humans and not according to the nature, right? Submergence of places, examples, destruction of ecological processes, water conflicts between states and countries, social and human cost, environmental clearance could be bypassed, right? There will be conflict of interest because of the intergovernment authorities itself. Some authorities will want to preserve the places, some authorities will be overpowering to ensure that the project gets carried out, right? So this is the aspect of river interlinkages. Now again in news, this has been in news throughout the year, just that budget was allocated to it, it must be covered, right? So when we look at river interlinking, we looked at the declaration in the budget about the 5 rivers. We understood the history of it, what happened in the 1980s, 2000s, and now. We also understood what is the need for interlinkages of rivers. The irrigation potential of the country is low. The availability of water is only in monsoon times. We have perennial flow of water in the northern rivers. They can be linked to the southern rivers. We have understood the need. We've also understood the advantages of it. 6, 7 very aiding points for advantages, and appreciate the level of effort put by some of you in answering the question here, giving the example and data points. Those are the ones which will make your answer absolutely lively. So thank you for providing this, and improvements have been seen. Huge improvements have been seen. Thank you. Advantages are there, and then we have issues associated with these kind of interlinkages. So human cost, environmental cost, cost of finances, burden on the ecology, sustainability of the energy of water lift. Many of the issues also have been covered. So what should be the answer? Should it be carried or not? If a question like this is asked to you, should it be carried or not? Should you go for yes, it should be carried, and or should you go for no, it should not be carried, right? A question like this should not be asked. It won't be asked. What they will, however, ask you is discuss the feasibility. In your discussion, you will talk about the advantages of the project, the analysis of it, the issues associated with the project, the examples of it, and towards the end of it, you will say, right, so project to project basis, it must be executed. Project to project basis, depending on the landscape, depending on the local area requirements, depending on the cost benefit analysis, it must be executed, right? So you will take the middle path while answering a question. Whenever a question is asked, should it be done or not, the answer is not yes or no. You will give rational points. These are the points why I think it must be done. These are the shortcomings, and then you might go ahead and say, at places wherever required, it must be done. So the question for today is, river linking project comes with its benefits and concerns. Elaborate. See, simple question this time, benefits and concerns, elaborate. While you elaborate, you will give examples of both of them. But when you start an answer like this, you will not start immediately with the advantages. You will speak of a context of why a question like this is asked. River linking, it is important because there are surplus and deficit areas for water. You will answer this question because India is a country with the irrigation potential of only 50%. Monsoon is the one which is having water with itself, but it is not distributed equally throughout the country. So with this context, you talk about the advantages, the issues, and that is the answer along with examples, right? So fairly simple question for today. And in fact, many of you have answered this question already. But what is important is for you to pick up the points of each other, right? So right from here, you will see many of you getting through, some of you lagging behind, but this is what is the community about. If you learn from each other, if you try to have a healthy competition, I think there is nothing better than this. And this is where I would like to bring back the quote to you all. The quote very clearly mentions that you will not go unnoticed. You will become so good that nobody will be able to ignore you. Right? So keep up your good work, right? And good work happens only consistently. How will you make this happen? Start noting down the ADEC from here. ADEC from here. And in a month's time, not only noting down, along with this noting, you should memorize this. You must memorize this, and you will see that change happening within a very small time. Just 1 month, and you will start seeing the change in yourself, because the articles will get repeated every time. If you know, I have covered NIRF rankings multiple times and national education policy at least 20 times in the Gazette itself, at least 20 times. So once we have a similar article coming on education, the same content should get repeated for you. And if you remember the data, what else will we require? We need health data, we need education data, we need skilling data, we need agricultural data, industry data, manufacturing data, we need data for service sector and certain more facts associated. That is all it is. So if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares, and we will quickly meet in the video tomorrow itself for current affairs and the feature news, right? And let me see if there are some questions here. Pooja, I think that the newsletter must have gotten updated already on the website. Please have a look. Ashish says it is forecasted that this year might be a La Nina year as winter was prolonged. Yes. Vakram says 1.5 lakh megawatt hydroelectric power potential at 60% load factor. Yes. See, other people, please note this. Absolutely, this is what it is. 1.5 150 gigawatt potential in India for hydroelectric power projects, and at 60% PLF, right? So PLF is the load factor. I think prime load factor is the word PLF. It means that peak load factor. Peak load factor is the word. It means that the plant will not be working at full efficiency. This is about 100% efficiency. So 60% of this efficiency, the energy produced will be 90 gigawatt. 90 gigawatt, right? So this is India's peak potential, and now right now I think we have achieved around 50 gigawatt of hydroelectric power potential in India. Please note, this is the big power projects, but you must also know about small hydel. Small hydel, small HEP is less than 25 megawatt, small ones. So when we speak of, yes, let me remind you of one more additional thing around this. India has a fetish for big, right? We have had big dams, we have had big command area development projects, CADPs. But if we develop smaller projects, they are going to be more sustainable, less encroachment, less forest will be wasted if we have smaller areas. So if we create smaller HEPs at smaller levels, smaller water interlinkages, this is going to be more sustainable for a country like India. So small HEPs, small reservoirs, small dams are the way forward, right? This is one of the important conclusions that one can draw. In fact, this is not my own conclusion. This is how the government also evolved from CADP, Command Area Development Program, to watershed development programs, smaller watersheds. All right. So thank you, Vakram, for this. All right. So with this, we come to the conclusion. Thank you, Hima, Netra, Tiyasha, Ravi, Ashish, Kriti. Thank you, each of you. Babani, Pooja, I'm saying if you want to look at the PDF, Edukemy's website, you go, it must have been uploaded by now already. Thank you for participating. I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you and good night.